Welcome to Design Domination, where you'll gain confidence, clarity, and a competitive edge in a crowded marketplace so you can dominate your competition. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Colleen Gratzer, and in this episode of Design Domination, I'm talking all about transcripts for your audio and video content. Stick around to find out 7 use cases for transcripts, and most of them have nothing to do with accessibility. And you'll also get some helpful tips for creating a transcript. Now let's start off by clarifying what a transcript is. A transcript is simply a text version of spoken words and important non-speech sounds that are in an audio or video file. This text is an alternate way for users to get the information in the audio or video file. Now, it may shock you to find out that data from Nielsen show that US adults spend 6 hours a day consuming video content. 6 hours a day. So if your media isn't accompanied by a transcript, it's going to be much less accessible to everyone, not just certain users. And here's why. Individuals with hearing impairments are one group served by transcripts. Now, according to the World Health Organization, by 2050, nearly 2.5 billion people are projected to have some degree of hearing loss, and more than 700 million will require hearing rehabilitation. These individuals may include deaf or hard of hearing individuals and those who are deafblind. For those who are deafblind and therefore unable to read as an alternate method, assistive technology actually can present the text in the transcript as braille to them so they can still access the content. So there is reason number 1 to include a transcript. And you may be surprised about these other use cases. Reason number 2 is people who have challenges processing auditory information. So more visual learners, they also find transcripts helpful. I definitely have always been more of a visual learner. I can remember so much more of something when it's written down rather than if I just hear it. Now, reason number 3 is that some users just want to read. They might read faster than listening to the audio, or they're just short on time. I often hear from followers of my podcast that they will go and read the transcript, the article on my website, instead of listening. And they usually do it because they can read faster. Reason number 4 is that a transcript gives users, all users, the ability to search for content on the page. And this is especially helpful if someone hears about a product or on a podcast while driving, for example, and then maybe they go visit the episode page when they get home later. This is also helpful if they hear a name mentioned in the audio, but they aren't sure how to spell it. They can go reference the transcript and find it there. Reason number 5 is that transcripts provide users the ability to select text. Okay, well, why does that matter? Well, it means that all users are able to go in and highlight and then click define, like when you right or control click a word in the browser, right? Or certain programs, and then they can look up the definition of a word. Not only that, though, a transcript enables non-native speakers of a language to copy words or phrases into a translation app. And beyond that, being able to copy and paste text from a transcript also allows you to repurpose your content more easily. Now, reason number 6 is situational accessibility. A user may not be able to hear the audio in the podcast or a video due to their surroundings, such as being in a noisy restaurant, or if they don't want to wake a sleeping baby, for example. And reason number 7 is that transcripts can enhance search engine optimization due to having on-page text with keywords and even the addition of hyperlinks to the content. This expands the reach of your content because it will be more easily found by new people. Now, you may be wondering what the accessibility requirements are for transcripts. Well, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, address transcripts for audio only, video with audio, and then video only content. For audio only media, such as a podcast that is pre-recorded, transcripts are required at level A, which is the lowest level of conformance. But for live audio, transcripts are required at level AAA, the highest level of conformance. Now, for video with audio content that is pre-recorded, transcripts are a level AAA requirement. And for video only content, meaning video with no audio, if it's pre-recorded, then a transcript that describes the video or has an audio description is required at level A. Now, when it comes to creating a transcript, there are several ways to do it. You could, create a transcript by typing one up from scratch, but, that's the most time-consuming method. If you already have captions, though, you can use that file, which is usually an SRT file. You can use that as the basis for your transcripts. Some services will allow you to even export the captions without the timing, and so it's just a text file. And then you can just use that as the transcript. There are a variety of tools out there that can generate transcripts for you very quickly, though, such as Otter, Rev, HappyScribe, and Descript, just to name a few. So what should you include in your transcript? Well, as I mentioned earlier, a transcript is a text version of spoken words and then important non-speech sounds that are in the audio or video file. So for example, a non-speech sound could be a door slamming or a dog barking, if those are important to include if someone in the audio or video is, reacting to them. Now, if there's more than one speaker, you want to identify who is speaking. Now, usually you do this when the speaker changes and then put their name and a colon after it. You don't need to do it at the beginning of every single paragraph, though, just when there's a change in speakers. Now, certain circumstances may call for transcripts to be verbatim, word for word, such as for legal or medical reasons, for example. But in other situations, you may wish to take out filler words, such as ums and you knows. I actually do this with my podcast content, so it reads more like a professionally written blog post or article, because including filler words would actually just make it harder to read and understand. Now, whether or not the transcript was manually typed by a human or if it was generated by a service using AI, you always need to check it for accuracy. But you're not just checking the words. You also need to check spelling. You need to check names of people, products, and places, punctuation, and you might want to edit the transcript according to any editorial style guidelines as well, if applicable. There are some additional best practices that will make for a more reader-friendly transcript. And one is to break up the text into short paragraphs, about 2 or 3 sentences. And that's because long paragraphs are daunting for some people to read. It's also good practice to add headings to guide users. And this also makes it easy for users to find content later as well. So you would have separate sections with headings. You can also add hyperlinks to the websites, linking to people, places, or products that are mentioned in the audio or video. And it can also help with SEO when linking certain words or phrases that are in the text to other articles on the same website. Once the transcript is complete, you want to be sure to insert it on the same web page close to the audio or video file. This will just make it super easy to find. Okay, so that's my ultimate guide to creating a transcript. If this was helpful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. You can support the podcast by buying me a coffee. It might actually end up being a glass of wine or some tea, but you can go to buymeacoffee.com/creativeboost.